set, go!
Hello, I'm John Shepherd, and in this video we're going to talk all things acceleration. We're going to talk about the technical aspects of how to develop acceleration, and we're also going to talk about the means by which you can use the tools like sledges and harness belts that you can use to develop acceleration. Acceleration is crucial for sprinters obviously, but it's also beneficial for the majority of other athletes from all the other track and field events. The more powerful you are at moving your body with that added resistance, for example when using a sled from 0 say to 10 meters, the greater your potentiality will be to express speed and power. Therefore, a long jumper, for example, who's good at acceleration will invariably have a better, superior top end speed as well. A shot putter who can move a sled very quickly over 10 meters will potentially be able to throw the shot further than an athlete who doesn't have that accelerative capacity. So at the outset, it's important to see that there are two potential benefits from developing your acceleration. One is that it's obviously going to improve your acceleration and get you to top speed at a more optimum level. And secondly, you can see developing acceleration as a bit like weight training, a means to increase your specific strength in a way that's going to improve your athletic event performance. So for example, if you were in the gym and you got better at squats, as long as your other training was compatible with that and everything fitted in together, the chances are that your running, your throwing and your jumping will also improve commensurately. Okay, let's take a look at the means by which you can develop acceleration. Now you can use hills, for example, sleds and harnesses. Now all these means can and will develop acceleration if used appropriately. Now one of the first factors that you need to consider is the gradient and the resistance against which you are developing your acceleration. So if you're running up a too steep hill or trying to tow a sled with a very heavy weight, you're going to affect your running, your sprinting mechanics. So from a technical point of view, as a coach or as an athlete, you always need to be mindful of how you are accelerating. If, as I've said, the resistance on the sled is too great, then you're going to be accelerating in a way that's going to have less specific direct transferability to, for example, your actual sprinting. Now that's a very important consideration when using, for example, a harness whereby one athlete provides the resistance whilst the other one runs. It's very tempting for the athlete behind supplying the resistance to pull too hard. However, they need to enable the athlete who's running to be able to develop their acceleration without being yanked backwards. They need to be able to get into good accelerative positions. And as a coach or as the athlete, you always need to be mindful of that. You need to be thinking about the posture, the torso position, the leg drive, for example, when using a harness. And it's basically the same set of criteria for when using a sled. Let's talk about getting started using a sled. I would put around 30% of the athlete's body weight in terms of weight onto the sled when they start to use one. Potentially around about 20% even, as you want them to be able to move that sled relatively quickly, but crucially with the right sprint mechanics. So what are those mechanics? And by the way, they also apply to uphill running, for example. Well, you need to impart a lot of force behind the body to propel it forwards. Crucial to this is the torso position. When you leave the blocks, for example, the torso angle is around about 45 degrees. So when starting an accelerative run with a sled, for example, the athlete should be in a suitable leaning forwards position, and they should try to maintain an angled torso as they move the sled forward. Now, of course, what I'm saying applies to all acceleration, whether with resistance, up a hill or on the flat. So that torso position is crucial, but the angle of the torso must follow through into the legs, so you don't get a folded over position. You're looking for the torso and the legs, particularly over the first 3 to 4 steps, to be in a sort of alignment. This enables the athlete to push through their spine and work the ground behind them to really get that acceleration. If the body position, for example, is broken and the athlete is bending forwards at the hips but not getting the legs in the right position as well, then they're not going to optimally accelerate. What else is crucial? Well, the arms are. You've all seen sprinters leaving the blocks with a very long arm position and the body at that 45-degree angle. Well, the arm drive sets up the leg drive. So it's crucial that the athlete really swings their arms long over the first couple of steps in order to enable the legs to work into the track surface, to give them more room to develop that greater acceleration from zero momentum. As a coach, I will often cue 3 long arm actions before the arms then bend at the elbows whilst accelerating. Also, it's the forward legs arm that the athlete swings up first. So if they're in an accelerated position with the right leg to the front, then a good cue is to say move the right arm up quickly as they accelerate. That, as I've said, will enable the right leg to extend fully and push the athlete forwards. So we've looked at torso and body position and the arm action. The other crucial aspect to consider is the way the legs move. Now, generally speaking, athletes push against the track surface to create that momentum. When accelerating, they drive through the hip, and that's something that should be accentuated, emphasized when sled towing, for example. If you take your foot too quickly off of the track surface, then of course you're not going to impart sufficient force to optimize your acceleration. The sports science indicates that the best accelerative athletes are the ones that can get the greatest cadence with the greatest amount of force being imparted back into the track surface. So getting acceleration right is a combination of cadence and power, force against the track surface. And that's why initially, for technical reasons, overloading a sled can be detrimental. Now, after the first 3 to 4 steps of acceleration with a sled or even coming out of the blocks, the mechanics of acceleration slightly change in that the heel recovery, the way the heel lifts behind the body, has to start to come up. You should always try to maintain a low heel position throughout the accelerative phase. If you lift the heel up too quickly, one, you'll start to cycle rather than drive forwards. And secondly, you're going to take too much air time on each step. The heel, by being kept low to the track surface, will enable a lot of power to be put through into the surface and the right direction to be achieved. So this is why a lot of contemporary sprint coaches, for example, are talking about moving the feet away from you during acceleration. So if you move the foot forwards quickly, you're still going to get that drive into the track surface as if you were pushing against the surface. So many coaches believe that by taking the feet away from you whilst accelerating, you're going to get a more effective acceleration. So as a coach, I would recommend that you get your athletes to experiment with both methods. Now, having said that, when you're in the blocks, you do push back against the blocks. However, it's after that, when you've cleared the blocks, that an athlete can also think about moving their feet away from them, keeping their heels low to the ground, and that can create greater power, greater accelerative capacity. So how far should you, for example, tow a sled for or have an athlete restrained, pulled back by another athlete when using a harness? It's a difficult question to answer. However, I'll do it in general terms, particularly for club athletes. 10 to 15 metres may be optimum. Beyond about 15 metres, the athlete will inevitably be coming closer to their upright sprinting position. Hopefully this video on acceleration and the use of sleds and harnesses will aid you in your choice of kit, and also on how to coach acceleration for the athletes that you're involved with, or indeed if you're an athlete yourself. And do contact NERF, as they'll be able to give you further advice on the type of equipment that's relevant to you and your needs.